Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Another quiet Sunday morning. Sundays are, I wish every day was Sunday. But yeah, I wanted to make one more for the week here. This has been a weird week. I basically made 5 videos in 2 days. So, sorry. Um, and so, yeah, I feel like the quality of them is fine, but one of them was like a football video, which, I'll make those from time to time. But yeah, this video is something that actually I experienced just this morning, and it gave me the idea. And that is the topic of discourse or debate, or you could say online discussion. And before I say this, well, first of all, if you're new to the channel, please like the videos, subscribe to this channel. That applies to all viewers. Please like, please like. It really helps the algorithm. And then comment down below. But the other thing before is that I actually like watching debates online. So I'm not throwing shade at like Jay Dyer or Andrew Wilson. I would throw shade at like Desi and Vaush because they're cringe. But those kind of debates do serve their purpose. That is the blood sports realm. If you guys don't know the term, JFG Garipi, Andy Worski, these were people like the early blood sport type people. That was all fine and dandy, right? Like the Stefan Molyneux, like back in the day. That stuff is still, you could say, entertaining, right? It's an entertainment product in many ways. And so I still enjoy that. I've said before, Jay Dyer especially is one of my favorite content creators, just because he's kind of goofy, and I need that sometimes because I get depressed. But with that caveat, debating really is useless. Like I said, it is now an entertainment product, and it's utterly pointless, other than maybe for exposure. But the problem with debating nowadays is that Jay Dyer even talks about this, like with Christianity. A lot of the heresies in Christianity that you see are heresies that were dealt with in the past, just re-emerging because society's forgotten about them, essentially. And I've been getting comments about how my Christian worldview is limited, blah blah blah. But you can apply this to literally anything. Okay, anything you believe in is your religion. I've spoken about this. There is no such thing as an irreligious man. It is actually impossible. Whether you like to say that you're not or you are, if you say you're not and you're like an atheist and you're above it, well, it's a cop out, okay? That is a complete cop out, because you couldn't be an atheist if there wasn't a possibility of God existing. That's the whole point of your existence. So your existence is predicated on the fact that there may not be a God, which again, you can't prove. So you're in the same conundrum that you say that the Christians are in. So the point I'm trying to make with saying all that is that there's only so many possibilities in this life, right? This is why Christianity makes so much sense to me. And I'm not just talking about the hoorah evangelical Pentecostal, ecumenical, like the stuff you see nowadays. That's not Christianity. Like, a lot of people need to get this square. Christianity is more of, you can almost go back to like Aristotle, right? Go back to the ancient Greeks. Christianity was created with Hebrew spiritualism and Greek logic, essentially. So in and of itself, it was an ideology created from two ideologies to create a superior ideology, right? And again, I talk about the dialectic all the time. Well, that's another example of the dialectic becoming a trinity, right? You take two opposing dialectics and you combine them together, and somehow they work, and solves the problem. So we're very limited in this life, is what I'm saying. There's only so many possibilities in the Christian view. And really, this is just mathematics, right? If you want to look at this from a scientific lens, or an atheist lens, right? Just look at numbers, right? There's only so many numbers. Like you can go infinity with numbers, but ultimately there's only 9. I guess you could say 10 if you count 0, right? There's ultimately only 10 numbers that you can work with, and you just manipulate those ad nauseum. This is the problem with science in general, right? Is they try to solve problems with they basically try to solve problems in the modern world by rejecting the metaphysical. And if you reject that, then you're just left with the I was watching the movie The Believer with Ryan Gosling recently, about an absolute mind trip of a movie. The movie itself is terrible. It's Jewish propaganda, but it says the loud part out loud. It's like a better version of American History X. But I remember in the movie he's talking about how the highest, they were talking about how the highest form of Jewish spirituality is nothingness without end, is the way they worded it. So nothingness without end. That's their highest like goal. I can't remember. I think they said 13. This is all in the movie, so I'm not being anti-Semitic, right? This is literally in a Hollywood-made movie written by Jews. They were saying there was like 13 spiritual essences or something like that. And I need to read more about this stuff, because I do believe that to fight your enemy effectively, you have to understand them, right? And I mean that in like not in like a violent sense, YouTube, okay? In like an intellectual sense, right? You just need to understand the opposition. That's a better way to put it. It's like when you're say we'll use a football analogy here. If you football fans are still watching, you Eagles fans, when you're trying to beat a team, you go and you watch their tape so that you can figure out what kind of plays they do, what their defense looks like, right? You need to know your enemy. And so, yeah, the Christian worldview is that God is infinitely uncreated. Now, this is the Orthodox view, right? Again, Christianity's been perverted. I'm completely ceding that ground. But when you break it down, this is like what led me to Orthodoxy. When you break it down, it does ultimately lead to just, there's only so many possibilities in this life. Right? Like there's miracles that can be performed, but demons can perform miracles. So miracles don't necessarily mean God in this world. They're just bleeding over from another realm, which really is outside this world, which also shows you the limitlessness of this world. I hope I'm making sense. I'm trying not to ramble too much here. I get accused of that often, but it is what it is. These are my thoughts, okay? This is the point of the channel now. And so yeah, to get to the main topic of why I think debating is becoming pointless, what inspired this today was there's this story that came out about Sarah Stock. I don't know if you guys know who Sarah Stock is. She kind of just came out of nowhere, but she's a pretty, very very pretty blonde white Christian girl. And again, I think she's a Roman Catholic. I think that's her religion. But yeah, she's very cute. She was on Jubilee, I think, debating Sam Cedar. That was her claim to fame, you could say. She debated Sam Cedar about, it's the classic Protestant tri-faith argument, American argument of, we're a Christian nation or whatever. The problem with America is America is a Protestant nation. So while it's technically Christian, it's the word Protestant means protest. So in and of itself, America is a revolution. So that's why the seams are falling apart right now, because if you really break it down, we're no different than the French Revolution, and the French Revolution led to Napoleon. So I was hoping, but my prediction was that Trump was going to be the Napoleonic figure, but I guess more things have to happen before we get to that point. But I digress. She was on Jubilee debating with Sam Cedar, who is Jewish, about the whole tri-faith, this is a Protestant white nation argument, the classic Wignat argument of the modern day. And she got a lot of support for that. You know, I liked it. You know, she's again, she's very pretty. That's something I've said with the Sydney Sweeney video. It's nice to see pretty girls getting the focus again. And you know, that also kind of ties into where I'm going to go with this video, with the what the response to this current incident was. So yeah, what happened today or yesterday, I'm not sure, recently, very recently, is she got engaged. Now, she was with Elijah Schaefer. She worked over with Elijah Schaefer on Slightly Offensive before this whole Jubilee event. And I remember I watch Elijah Schaefer occasionally, and he has her on, and she was talking about getting married like 4 or 5 months ago. So I don't actually know why everyone's upset by this. She's like been engaged essentially. And she's very young, so good for her. Like, honestly, fantastic. I've said before, and I get all this MGTOW red pill disagreement here, but ideally, if you're a man, you want to marry the youngest woman possible. You know, obviously within legal. Right? Again, I'm not encouraging underage marriage, YouTube. But you want to marry the woman as young as possible, which is usually about 18, 19, early 20s, you know, somewhere in that range. There's like that 4-year time frame. And, you know, a man can be like in his 20s, right? That's the way it used to be, okay? This is why it's so stupid to argue with MGTOW people. This is the way it used to be. You all want to be Muslims now, apparently, right? I grew up in the LDS faith, okay? LDS, they believe in polygamy. So I guess you guys could be Mormons as well. But yeah, like I know what this is, so I don't need the lectures, right? You guys want your harem, I get it. That's male nature. Female nature is they want protection and they're hypergamous, right? So this is why they should not be sleeping with men young, because they never will forget Chad Thundercock after that. It's called alpha widowing. I've even said, like, I've read Rollo Tomasi's books. I agree with the observations of the red pill. I just don't agree with the conclusions of the red pill. And so, yeah, she's very young. That's the point I'm getting at, which is, like I said, very good for her. I've said in past videos, this is the ideal. Marry young as a woman, marry youngish as a man, right? With a plan. If you're a man, you know, have some kind of plan. You know, this is a stupid world we live in. The Zoomers are pretty screwed in many ways, but you know, if you get the right woman, she'll follow you. Women are funny like that. But anyway, the whole point is that she's getting married young, and she's, you know, she posted on Twitter with her ring. You know, it's a smaller ring too. This is relevant to what happened, but she posted this like tiny little wedding ring in this like meadow, and it's just her hand, and she says "I won." That was all it said. And the quote-unquote right-wing girls, right, we're talking about the Ashley St. Clairs. I don't even know all of them. There's so many of these women now. The Ashley St. Clairs, Pearl Davis, who's become very cringe, actually. Pearl Davis was one I kind of liked her initially, but my goodness, she's become so cringe. Pearl Davis is like, when I talk about how male feminists are cringe because they're fighting for like men's issues, I think the opposite also happens with women when they go down this Pearl Davis route, where they become essentially the female version of a male feminist. You could call them a female MRA, right? Men's rights activist. And it's the same disastrous result. It just makes her look bitter. She's not married, obviously, so it's like, if you love men so much, like, why aren't you married? The feminists have this same problem, right? It's like they're feminists forever. They're never going to get married. They're never going to have kids. You know, I'm not going to be tied down. So this whole thing's happening now online. This screeching, and that's what got me to the topic. Is like, debate is over. Discourse is over. All the internet is now is a 4chan post. And right now, you know, I've talked about this, all ties into kind of my weekly theme of these videos this week. This all ties into the fact that they're now trying to censor the internet. They're trying to put the genie back in the bottle because it's such a disaster now that the government has no control of the narrative. They have no control anymore over the narrative. And they really do want to go back to the 90s. They want us to just believe again that, you know, women are as good as men, and, you know, the G.I. Jane. Just remember all the movies from the 90s, right? G.I. Jane and all these propagandistic movies, right? Saving Private Ryan. They want us to go back to just believing all of the myths but reality is setting in, right? And this is Trump. This is why Trump is such an utter disaster. Not only for the whole Israel thing, but also because economically he won't allow the recession to happen. You know, this is something that we were saying during Biden's years that he should do. Because after you printed the money that you printed in COVID, the recession is inevitable. So what Trump is doing, and we've got 3.5 more years of this, he's just locking the economy in a state of paralysis, right? Like, so essentially the houses are just going to get more and more expensive. The wages are going to stay stagnant, right? At my job right now, I'm only making like 40 a year, maybe after taxes, probably 40 after taxes. So it's a pathetic wage, you know. I'm in a good situation financially, so I can afford to take that kind of a wage, but nobody can live off that. If you're like paying rent, you pretty much have to live in a van. So the economy's not going to be fixed. Trump's introducing the tariffs, right? But the tariffs are just a form of tax. If he doesn't get rid of the income tax, which, you know, who knows, we've just added a new tax. So, and then of course he's bailing out the corporations as before with their taxes by cutting Medicaid, which you're taking taxes paid to bail out the corporations that went woke. It's all, this is a whole thing, guys. I could go down this whole rabbit. The point is Trump is an utter failure. If you haven't realized that by now, then you're too blind, I guess. You're too in love with the Trump thing, right? I mean, QAnon is still a thing somehow, so I don't know. But yeah, the point I'm making is that there's no point in discussing a lot of this stuff anymore. That's why, like, some of these videos I struggle to make. I feel like I'm just repeating myself constantly. That's why I try to talk about like religion and stuff more, because it's just more interesting, like philosophical stuff. Because we're just done with debate, and so it became so apparent so Sarah Stock's just getting attacked by all these women, right? Like, we used to live in an age where, you know, women and men would be happy for you if you were getting married, and then if you were having children, it would be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, right? But now it's like petty female jealousy, and the whole society is feminine. That's something to understand. I've talked about that in the past. The spirit of the age right now is feminine. Jason Miranchuk, who I shout out a lot, he talks about the vengeful son, which I do think that is coming. But right now we're still in this very feminine age because women are just, I don't know, we've reached peak female insanity in many ways. The Sydney Sweeney thing really proved that. And then I see things like this, right? It's like, because like this is another thing I've noticed is like, this is again with the Sydney Sweeney thing, like when men are calling her attractive, other like MGTOW men or, you know, the incels or whatever, they're attacking the men for thinking that she's hot. And a lot of guys are calling Sydney Sweeney mid. It's just this happened when the Barbie movie came out, I remember too. Like everyone was calling Margot Robbie mid. And Margot Robbie's getting older, I get that, but there is no way in hell you could consider Margot Robbie mid. Have you seen The Wolf of Wall Street? Like, she's absolutely gorgeous. And it's the same with Sydney Sweeney. It's hilarious that this is the levels of cope. And it's to the point where like men are calling other men gay if they think that certain women are attractive. It's insane. And then on the women's side, it's like, yeah, the things that women should be celebrating, which is marriages and family formation, they're getting like mad about that. And the funny thing about women too is they bring up all the, like, oh, you've slept with this many guys, blah, blah. It's like the cat fights now are insane. And it's probably true. Like, a lot of the women they've probably have slept with men out of marriage. That's just very common now, unfortunately. And so, yeah, the point I'm making is like, that's what it is now. There's no debate. There's no discussion. This is why this channel doesn't get any views, guys, because for one, YouTube is removing me from the algorithm for whatever reason. And then two, like, people don't want to hear this kind of stuff. They're not interested. They want the red meat. If I wanted to just make slop all day, I could easily do that. You know, like, this is a good example. I could have just made this video all about this incident and pulled up the receipts and all that, but I use these things that happen as like a springboard to talk about a broader, phenomenon occurring. And so that's how like it's all reactionary now. It's all dialectic. And I'm just tired of it, really. Like I'm very tired. I'm tired of the right left crap too. Like that was something that Trump just has now solidified permanently in my brain, is that there is no government party for you. There is only the government. It is a uniparty completely engulfed by the special interest group, which we all know who that is if we're paying attention. That was my last video. We are an occupied government. I made a video about the FEMA thing. So anyway, guys, that's kind of the video. I don't have much else to say on this, but yeah, we are in peak clown world now, where people just screech at each other. They insult each other online, right? There's no actual debate anymore, if there even should be, because again, like I said, there's only so many possibilities. Like we're at the point now where we need debate to be over, and we need people to start actually doing things, which again, that's what I thought this Trump admin was going to be, but it's not. It doesn't mean that private individuals can't use this breathing room to start building something. But that's ultimately where we're at. We are at a point now, like I'm making these videos, but I'm also, I'm working again, and I'm building towards the future of some kind. And there's many avenues that I have kind of plotted out that I can go down when the opportunity arises. Because I can't remember the quote exactly. It's all success is preparation plus opportunity arising, or something like that. It's like you basically prepare. You prepare for the possibility that the opportunity will arise, so that when the opportunity presents itself, you're ready to act. So that's where we're at right now. We need action. We don't need debate. This whole YouTube thing, I don't know how long it's going to last for me. I don't know how long it's going to last for anyone. Again, we've got the whole UK censorship thing. They're going to put us all on a database just to use the internet. That's the goal. Then they can persecute you for crimes, right? Like they can actually come after you for hate speech. This all ties into their laws too, the anti-Semitism laws that they're passing, right? This is all so obvious if you're paying attention, what they're trying to do. This has nothing to do with protecting children. Because again, if that was the case, then why did they put trans ideology in schools for the last 5 years, right? If they cared so much about protecting kids, they probably put kids in the absolute worst situation you could imagine over the last 5 years. So that argument is completely bunk. We know what this is about. The time for debate is over, guys, and you need to start preparing. That is really where we're at. You have to start preparing in your personal life, in your spiritual life. You need to start putting your ducks in order, you could say, right? And yeah, it's kind of video. I don't mean to like lecture you guys. This is just these are my observations. This is what I think is coming, and it's not going to get any better, right? The Zoomers especially. I'm sorry, guys. I feel really bad for the Zoomers, but at the same time, I'm a little envious, right? If you guys have seen the movie Interstellar, Matthew McConaughey, I think, is the Zoomer in the movie, and the John Lithgow, right? If I always say his name right, the grandpa, he actually, I think, is the millennial. And there is a theme in that movie where they're kind of just stuck on this dust planet in the beginning, and they're just kind of like watching everything decay around them, and they're just thinking like, what's next, right? And the Matthew McConaughey character really just wants to build what's next. And that's kind of where we're at. If we just recognize the age that we're in, that's another thing to think about too. Like, there's a lot of bitterness towards the boomers. I have it myself, but we're not going to get what the boomers want. And in many ways, do we really want what the boomers want? Because what the boomers got made them the most selfish, the most self-centered generation probably in the history of time. And, again, it's not really their fault. They were just born into that circumstance. So do we really want, this is what Trump's trying to do. Do we really want to recreate the golden age of the boomer? I say no. I say we move on to what's next, right? And unfortunately for us millennials and Gen Xers, and maybe even Gen Zers, That probably means that you won't see the fruits of that labor in your lifetime. But, it is kind of ironic how the generations are resetting, right? Gen Alpha, I think Gen Alpha now they've classified as being born from like 2020 onward or something like that. Maybe 20, I think they said 2025 is the Generation Bravo is what they're calling it. So Generation Alpha might be like 2018, something like that, maybe 2016. But those kids will be in their 20s in 10 years from now, essentially. And so that's something to think about. Those are going to be the young kids, and the world is going to probably look a lot different in 20 years or 10 years even. 20 years for sure. 20 years, that's when, I'll be in my late 50s. The Zoomers will be in their late 30s. And then that will be when Gen Alpha is like fully in their 20s. So these are all things to think about, guys. Just understand what's going on. I said in my past videos, it's okay to enjoy the slop, enjoy the distractions, but understand what is going on. Always be building towards something. Look into Bitcoin if you guys haven't. Not financial advice, YouTube, but look into it. And just prepare. That's it. That's the video, guys. 26 minutes in. Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe to the channel. I will be doing another unboxing for you guys to cap out the week. But other than that, hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. And yeah, I'll talk to you on the next one.